Hi, my name is Yun Mo. I'm an instructional designer at Seattle Central College. In this video, I'd like to talk about a way to design and create a hybrid or online course based on a traditional face-to-face course. Now, there are several ways to achieve that goal. For example, you could just simply move over the course content all the way from the face-to-face class to online, or just divide it up and just put one pile of activities on face-to-face portion of a hybrid course, or put the other pile in online format. That would be a kind of a simple process, quick process. And then on all the way the other spectrum of the process could be completely redesigning using completely different pedagogical approaches to design a hybrid course or online course. The method that I'm about to share with you fits in somewhere in between. So this is suitable for first-time new course online or hybrid course designer, or have some experience of developing those courses. So to start, I would like to start from identifying and analyzing what we already do in our traditional face-to-face class. So let's consider kind of a timeline or chronological order of activities that we do in our face-to-face class. That's the first thing, what we do in the classroom, or the things that we do throughout the day, or throughout the one class day, or just whole week. Let's say that's a one module, or that could be a chapter. So anyway, let's consider what we do in our classroom. So let's say here is face-to-face, fully on-campus course. So let's say, in my case, I just walk into the classroom and say hello. And so I'll say, I'll do greetings, and perhaps kind of a check-in with the students. So sometimes there might be some immediate questions, but I'm going to just hold off for now. I'm talking about between me as an instructor and the students. So the next kind of common activities that I do is calling the attendance. So that could attendance there. And then after that, perhaps I'll just respond to some questions. So there will be Q&A. So if there was a question about assignment or quizzes and so on. After that is cleared, I might also do some announcements. So for example, we might have a quiz coming up, or canceled class, and that sort of kind of things. I'll make some announcements. And then I'll start a lecture. And within the lecture, so I'll just have a pure presentation of the content and the concepts using PowerPoint or whiteboard. And in the lecture, so there will be some presentation of the contents. And also sometimes I would like to check in with the students. So I'll have some kind of questions, and also perhaps answers. So this is about the lecture itself, not necessarily the Q&A here. And then I may challenge the students with some kind of a discussion topic. So I'll throw out some questions or ideas. So we'll have some brief in-class discussion. And so other than lecture, I might actually do some group activities. So if there's any group project or group activities, we'll do that. And sometimes, not necessarily every day, but sometimes I might have a quiz or some kind of assessment. So that could be a form of an exam, assessment. Okay. What else? So depending on the course, I might have a lab. So again, not every day necessarily, but I may have like 1 or 2 days a week. I may have a lab, and so on. So these are the things that I usually do. Okay, I'm sure there are other things that I forget to mention here. Other than these things that we do in my classroom, I also have outside classroom activities. They could be reading, essentially assignments. So reading and other assignments, such as perhaps working on end of chapter assignments, homeworks, or writing essays, research papers, or any kind of a project related that could happen outside of the classroom. So I put in a different color here to identify that happens outside of the classroom to start with. Okay, now I listed and kind of identified a few activities that I do on a given day or given week. And so we're going to convert somehow into an online course or a hybrid course. So let me just quickly do that. So let's say here, online course. I can say that, for example, greetings and check-ins. So that could be done through, for example, at Seattle Central, we use Canvas as a learning management system. So we could use this greetings and perhaps announcements in a form of announcements. So let's say, I meant to say announcement tool in Canvas. Or it could be, for example, in the greetings, it could be, and check-in, we could use email using the inbox of Canvas. So I would do here, inbox. That's a kind of an instant message or /email. So we can take care of that. And so that's done. And what about calling attendance? Well, that is based, I can check using the Canvas course analytics tool. So it shows how many given students record in terms of how many pages they have seen, how many assignments they have submitted, and that sort of kind of things. How about Q&A? Q&A could be Q&A discussion board, so that students can post their question questions, and either the instructor or the other fellow students can answer the questions as well. So that's, again, this is just one example of how you can convert the face-to-face on-campus course activities into online. There are different ways to achieve the same thing. I'm not suggesting that this is the way that it should be. Anyway, so how about lectures? So lectures, in terms of presenting and explaining the concepts and ideas, I think it could be video recorded lectures. There are several ways to do that. Different platforms and applications. Panopto is one, and PowerPoint Record is one, and there are several free online screen capture applications that you could use. So somehow you would convert this lectures presentation into recorded video lectures. And then questions, answers about that particular content of the lecture. So this could be converted in several ways. So here's like a quiz, a short quiz. That's short quiz at the end of the video lecture. So that would be kind of a formative quizzes and assessments, so that we can find out if students understood or got the concept or was it successful. Or it also reinforces students to revisit the part of the lecture so that they will actually get the key points down. Okay. Other ways that you could do is this here, question and answers. You could also use a discussion board for Q&A for the module. Or just for the lecture. Or you can create a kind of a communication structure so that students can email you with the question and so on. And then perhaps you can combine this with the this discussion, in-class discussion about the lecture. So you can create like a full-blown discussion. So I'm going to put a big letter D. So discussion. Hold on, discussion. I think that's only one S. I got a little bit too excited. So discussion topic based on the lecture or based on that module. So that could definitely can include a discussion during the lecture, and also perhaps relate that to potential common questions and answers that you usually provide. So you will definitely be actively engaged in online discussion so that you can, give like a kind of a form, what to be expected in terms of how to post and how actively engage in weekly or the modular discussion board. And also you can kind of pattern how you can respond or raise questions. Okay, and now we get into some group activities. So here, Canvas or other learning management systems also provide some useful tools. So you can group grouped assignments so that have the students work together to produce some assignments like group projects or some kind of a work that demonstrates the students' learning. And then we have the group activities that could be covered. And then quizzes and assessments. And here, let me just, quizzes are quizzes. And the quizzes and the exams, they are what they are. However, the characteristics of quiz and exams may change between traditional face-to-face and online, because there's a definite advantage of assigning and taking a quiz or exam online. For example, you, as an instructor, I let the students take the quiz multiple times, and I don't necessarily forbid the students to take the quiz or exam open book. I think that's kind of expected. And that also is a good thing for students, so they can learn how to use the resources to get their answers quick. There are different ways to shape how the quizzes and exams are delivered and taken. There are many the properties that you can change around in terms of how many attempts that you allow, and when the correct answers are revealed and available to the students, and when the answers are available, and that sort of kind of things. Okay, so the point that I was going to make about this assessment, for example, quizzes and exams, is that because this is online, students can, I expect them to take the quizzes multiple times, and I expect them that it's going to be open book. So in a way, it's less of assessment. It's more of a formative assessment rather than summative. So I usually give much less percentage toward to the final grade. So let's say if quizzes and exams in our face-to-face class, let's say it was 25% of the final grade. For an online course, I may give maybe 10% or 15%. So it's less because it's more of a formative, and then it's kind of guide. The quizzes and exams are more like a guide to the students to tell what and where they should focus in terms of getting the concepts and main ideas and main skills. So rather than for the purpose of grading, giving the grade. So I would definitely lower the weight for the quiz and exams, and then change that from summative tool to formative tool, so that this quiz and exams are more of a learning tools rather than assessing the learning. So then the lab is an interesting part. Oftentimes, converting kind of traditional STEM labs is fairly challenging, even though there are toolkits, lab kits that are available so that students can perform some labs on their own at their home, but not necessarily all laboratory exercises are available. So this is something that you may have to negotiate with the lab technician on campus. Maybe students may require to come to the lab on campus or use the kind of this fabricated, packaged lab kit. So that will be lab. So, but if this lab is about some other, like a computer labs that could be easily transferred to online. So potentially online and or on campus. So that needs to be negotiated. All right, so that's online. So we kind of transposed over to online format. And now I would like to consider the hybrid format. So hybrid is combination of both online learning activities and on-campus in-class learning activities. So I could just move, let's see here. I'll use this, I used already, so I'm going to use blue. I'm sorry, not blue, this is green, but doesn't matter. It's a different color. So I want to just highlight hybrid. And from now on, I would treat these online activities, the online course format, as a part of the hybrid. So this will be online component of hybrid. Okay, and this will be the face-to-face component. Okay, so all right, I think that should be clear enough, I hope. Anyway, so let's think about this. As I look through this list, there are certain elements that are totally either online or face-to-face. And there are some elements that could be both in both platforms. For example, announcements. So this is where I come into the classroom and work with the students. So I may make an announcement in my classroom. Okay, so it's just a kind of reminder. It's over communicating slightly, so that make sure that students are getting the message, key messages. I would just put the check mark there. I'll leave inbox that online communication as it is. So that's I'll just leave it there, for obvious reason. And Canvas course analytics to keep track of the students' performances and activity levels. I would say that is also left it in online platform, but I may also want to call attendance. So that's, where was it? Yeah, called attendance there. So I kind of duplicate some parts online and some parts on face-to-face on campus section. And then again, the Q&A, I may duplicate that here, Q&A. So for example, a student may ask, what will be covered in the next exam? Or question about the project or essays they are working on and so on. So they can ask in person-to-person environment. So this is very effective for many students. Having meeting in the same room and talking in real time could be very effective. And the video recorded lectures, I would definitely just leave it there. So this will cover, let's see, this will cover the basic elements of the lecture, okay? But you may want to have like a additional highlight highlights of the lectures. Or even you may play the video lectures in the classroom and you watch with the students, and then you may pause every once in a while and you can challenge the students with discussion topic or the question and answer. So it's almost like you are playing dual roles. Like in the video, you are the professor, and in the classroom that you are sitting along with the students, you may act as like a TA, raising certain new perspectives about the lecture materials. So you're kind of playing dual roles and challenging each other in a way, and then you're kind of demonstrating how to raise concerns or ideas or suggestions to the presenter, the content expert, as a student, as a learner. So you can model that as well. So I'll definitely leave the video recorded lecture online, but put some highlights or just play the video in class. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea just play the video in the classroom all the time, but perhaps a segment of a video could be played in the classroom so that you can kind of reinforce key points. So you can kind of see that when you kind of reorganize and reshape and redesign this online list of activities into hybrid format, you see that transition or transformation of the characteristics and what role they play and how they could be effectively supporting student learning. So as I mentioned, like using the video, students can watch multiple times until they get the basic ideas. But at the same time, you can bring parts of the recorded video into face-to-face classroom, and then you can re-emphasize or have a completely new lecture that highlights the key points. So you are kind of reinforcing the learning opportunities. So the quiz, the pop quiz or the short quiz after the lecture, I think that's optional. You can just leave it there because the main function of this end of video lecture quizzes is again kind of guiding the students to focus what are important and not, and just making sure they get the key concepts. So you can just leave it there. But if you want to, you can use like a real-time response surveys, like using poll everywhere, kind of, or iClicker kind of activities everywhere. I'm demonstrating my dyslexia, so I can do this kind of things. So anyway, so you can use these tools in your face-to-face class. Okay, and so I think we got that. So we'll just leave it there. So I am using two conventions. So we move this, leave it there, leave it there, leave it there, but also let me use this pen. So kind of split in two there, and the video lectures, and that's kind of splitting or duplicating, and the quiz and short, so answers, surveys using poll everywhere or iClickers and so on. So that's kind of split. And the ones that I asterisk are the ones that are going to change or split from online to on campus. Okay, so this asterisk means they're either moved all the way or split. And the ones without the asterisk, they stay on online platform. Okay, so that's the convention here. All right, the next would be discussion for Q&A for the module and lecture. So that is originated from here, in on-campus, in-class lecture. After presenting the concepts, you may ask the questions to the students. So that is originate this kind of write a quick Q&A or kind of repository of common questions from the students for that module. Okay, that's that. So I would say this one is going to just stay there. Okay, so but that could be also incorporated. This is kind of important into the highlights of the lecture, because when students watch recorded video lectures, they come up with these questions and possible answers. So that means these are the kind of a reflection of where students are having difficult time following the instruction. So it is, I think, a good idea to include that in your in-class lectures. So I guess this could be, let's see, I'm going to use here. So this is something called just-in-time teaching, JITT, so that you gather up the questions through online platform of that particular module or particular topic, and you incorporate it into live in-class lectures and other learning activities. So that's called JITT, just-in-time teaching. Okay, and so what about discussion topic? Here, I think it's good to just leave it online as well, but you may, I'll just leave it as it is now for now, and then there might be some group assignments, just leave it there. So how about, let's consider this option. So how about maybe you can combine these two. So you assign an assignment that could be group, so let's say group assignments. But before you put the students into group, have them talk about that topic. So you will have some kind of a individual-based learning, but they will share their knowledge and ideas as a whole class or the group. And then once students gain some basic skill set or knowledge, and then they will get into group project or group assignment. So it's kind of a sequential. So get basic understanding, and then engage in discussion, and then engage in group activities so that individual team members in the group can actively participate and contribute and gain their ownership of their learning. Okay, so you could put one idea, one concept, or one topic into this group of assignments. So since these are fairly comprehensive process, it's a good idea to put this onto your in-class learning activities. So let's bring here so the kind of knowledge and skills that they gain from the discussion topic, participation, so they will have some knowledge base. Knowledge knowledge. That looks weird. Anyway, DG. Okay, now knowledge. Their knowledge base and skill sets and so on from the discussion and something that I did not mention for a while, these reading assignments, readings and then some assignments. By the way, so these will move over here. Sorry about this. I should have, okay, let's say reading and assignments, kind of a regular traditional assignments. Okay, so it'll move it over here. So that's part of the online learning, online course. And then that's also part of the hybrid learning, hybrid course as well. So what do we do about that? Is it part of this transition or not? Well, it's kind of yes and no, but it's more of a not. So because the reason why I'm saying it's not really part of this redesign is that reading assignments or the end of chapter assignments, they are what they are. They don't change. So they have to read, they have to, for example, watch videos or explore and do research and visit sites and do the homework and assignments. So they are what they are. They don't change based on different modalities. So that's why I put the different color and different, they'll stay. Okay? Anyway, the reason why I'm kind of referring to this assignment component is that this knowledge base could come from the lectures. Okay, let me just put the solid line here, and it could come from the reading and assignments. So they do the reading and they do some assignments outside of your classroom activities. So they come to the class and they already have this, some knowledge base and some skill sets, and they are ready to perform either individual assignment activities or group learning activities. So now you can kind of see things getting kind of complicated here. But you can kind of also see that when you are designing a hybrid course, it's not just moving things over here online or on campus, but same items change the characteristics. So that's the part that you have to think about. And obviously it doesn't come simply or naturally and easily. So you may practice or you may give it a try and see how students respond, and then you can retweak it as you teach this hybrid course several times. So anyway, you can also, oopsie, I'm going to just also kind of duplicate the group activities, group assignments on campus. So group learning. So the premises of this group learning on campus in the classroom, starting from some basic knowledge base and skill set, and then they get into interactive group learning, that is about active learning. in real time, active learning, because there are certain components in interaction, and then students need to be responsive to their questions and challenges and solving problems and so on. So that's fairly comprehensive process. So that's also, you could utilize the concept called flipped classroom model. Okay. Quizzes and exams, I would say, again, it's up to you whether you want to bring this over to on campus. That'll be depending on whether you want to use this assessment as assessment used for assigning the grades. But if you use quizzes and exams as a somehow formative tool, then you may just leave it there, because this is the bulk. This interactive, active learning is the bulk of your face-to-face classroom that students will benefit from the most. The labs, I would say, if you, again, that'll be depending on what kind of labs that you have, whether that could be simply move it over, because it's just easier to facilitate, or just leave it online, depending on types of the labs. If it's a computer lab, I would say there's no reason for you to bring it back to campus. But if there's a comprehensive and challenging, STEM-related labs, then yes, bring it in here. Or if this is something like a computer programming, computer science programming, and that sort of kind of things that may actually be incorporated into this group activity, so the students can program things together and produce some applications and so on. So that's basic kind of a transferring and transforming from the traditional face-to-face to online, and also hybrid that has both face-to-face and online components. So let me just briefly talk about how many hours how many hours face-to-face time do I need? So for example, if the traditional face-to-face course was, let's say, 5 credit, for example, 5 credit, that could be converted into 5 hours per week in the quarter system. And that's usually Monday through Friday, 1 hour a week. And now when we are designing a hybrid course, we have to think about how many hours of a face-to-face contact time do I need to effectively deliver the course content. So that requires a little bit of calculation. But again, this calculation will give you a kind of rough estimate, and there's no mean to be definite answer or solution. So let me see if I could use, I'll just use pink or this color. All right, so let's kind of put some kind of definite values of numbers. For example, when I come into the classroom, how many minutes do I spend in greeting and check-in? So let's say, I'll say 2 minutes. And then calling attendance, well, maybe 2-3 minutes. So I'll just put 3. Q&A, again, that could be depending on the day. It could be heavy day, it could be very light day. There's no question whatsoever. But let's give it an average about, let's combine this, announcement and then Q&A. Let's give it 5 minutes. But of course, that's a rough estimate that Q&A could turn into a brand new lecture that takes up the whole day. But just in general, let's say 5 minutes. And the lecture, so lecture could be, let's say, 30 minutes. And inside the lecture, the presentation part, that could be about 20 minutes. And question and answers, that could be maybe 5 minutes. And then discussion, the inside of during the lecture, again, 5 minutes. So that's altogether 30 minutes. So that does not leave a whole lot of time. So up to here, we have 5, that's 10, and 30, that's 40 minutes. So I have just 10 minutes left. So is it enough for group activities? Probably not, or maybe yes, depends. But again, we may not have a group activities every day of 5 days a week. So I would say, okay, I think that'll be doable. So let's say 10 minutes for one day, 2 days a week, for example. So altogether 20 minutes long for 1 week, if I'm making any sense at this point. My math is becoming a little bit fuzzier here because, again, our daily schedule may change from day to day, but if you look at the whole week, then I would say about 10% of contact time could be allocated to like a group activities, for example. So I'm just kind of estimating that. So that could be also the quizzes and the labs. So again, I'm kind of almost like I'm making up the time here. So either group activities, quizzes, assessments, and labs could take less than 10 minutes out of 50-minute bracket. So altogether, 5 classes per week. So we are talking about 50 minutes of either group activities, quizzes, and labs. One of them, or some of them combined. All right, so that altogether, that will give us 50 minutes. Okay? And the reading and the homework assignments don't count because we don't do that in our regular face-to-face classes. We don't do reading homework and homework in our classroom time. That happens at home, outside of the classroom. So now, online course. Okay, this is again back to online course format. I don't think there's a whole lot of change. It's more like a number to number transferring between this on-campus activities and online activities. So that's, I think, the straightforward. But the challenge comes, as I mentioned earlier, when you design a hybrid course. So now we are talking about a hybrid course. So this is on-campus activities, and this is online activities. So our goal, remember, is that trying to figure it out how many hours of contact hours do we need to successfully bring over the traditional face-to-face course into hybrid course, combining both online as well as face-to-face on-campus classroom time. So let's do this. So announcement, So we bring this over here. Some of them are repeated, some of them are new compared to online announcements. So this is, I would say, greetings and calling attendance, in a way speaking. And so I would say that's about 5 minute worth, not exactly, but roughly, let's say 5 minute worth of things. I'm sorry, that should be over here. And attendance, oh yeah, never mind. That is so 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm just bringing these two numbers over here. And then Q&A, even though it is always, the platform is provided online, but it's a good idea to either repeat it or reinforce it to include on face-to-face time. So that will be 5. Okay. And then the lecture part, this is the big part. So that's almost, I would say that's a 60%. Let me just put the number down here. There's 30 minutes out of 50-minute class, traditional class. This is equivalent of 60% of the whole class, either on a daily basis or weekly basis. That's a 60%. And now we are about to give the highlight lectures. So that will include the answering the questions or refocusing this question and answer, and some challenges from group activities and assignments. So that could be maybe maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depends. Or it could be less, it could be more, but more likely less. Otherwise, if you need more than 20 minutes, then it may not be a good idea to convert from face-to-face to hybrid. Maybe a little bit of online, but most of it should be face-to-face. So for example, 5 credit course, maybe you'll have 4 credit class worth of time face-to-face if that goes beyond, let's say, 20 minutes or so, comparing with 30 minute in traditional course. So that should be lower, ideally. I think that should be incorporated into the lectures. And so this is this flipped classroom activities. So that could be perhaps that could be about 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Let me just put 20 minutes here. All right, so what do we have? Okay, so 2, 5, so 10. Let's say I'm going to count it as 20 minutes. So 5, 10, 30, and all together. I'm going to just leave this out here for now. So let's all together 40 minutes. So you may wonder, okay, so traditional class here is 50 minutes. And on-campus class, I'm sorry, the hybrid, the on-campus portion of the hybrid course is 40 minutes. So what's the difference? It's not that different. But remember, this is the list of activities when you meet. So you don't necessarily meet 5 times a week. You may meet, let's say, 2 times a week, like 2 hours out of 5 hours a week. You may meet 3 hours out of 5, or even 4 hours out of 5, or even the other extreme will be just 1 hour, 1 hour per week, face-to-face time. So this kind of gives you some kind of opportunity to kind of analyze and understand. But this is where you're going to have to utilize your expertise as a professor. And so can you, for example, provide the highlights of the lecture material from the online, the recorded lectures for the week, okay? So let's say this is, let me just give you a quick number here. So this is, this part is almost other activities and so on, but this covers about 20 minutes. So that's about 40% of your learning delivery, the teaching contents, delivering the teaching contents. So I'm coming from the presenting in your fully face-to-face, and that's 20 minutes out of 50 minutes is 40%. So that is already taken care of. And then there's some Q&A discussion board, and then there's some group activities happening here. So this highlight could be able to cover maybe 2 days, 3 days, even 4, 5 days worth of this fully face-to-face classroom time. So, 30 minutes every day, 5 days a week. That's 3 hours out of 5 hours. That's traditional face-to-face. And then this video will take care, let's say 2 hours, 2 hours of lecture time. So you gain 2 hours. So instead of 5 hour per week, 1 hour every day in traditional format, because this will take care this part. So we take out the 40%. So 40% of 5 hours, that's 3 hours. So these activities and these activities, the discussion online and group activities, and then also highlights and interactive activities can probably take care that the rest of 60% of the learning activities. So again, you have to make a judgment call there. So can you summarize 5 hours of lecture in most part that is taken care of by the video, but provide the highlights in, let's say, in 20 minutes or 15 minutes? And how many of that 20-minute or 15-minute highlight lecture would you need per week? So it could be done in one time, or you may need twice a week, or even 3 times, and so on. So that's basically kind of a high algebra conversion between. So I think that's it. So we will have, I will recommend you to put this down for your course and put some diagrams and the flow chart, how these activities will be converted into online, and some of them need to be still face-to-face. And when you do that, you may witness some change of characteristics of same activities, but the internal what's happening inside may be different. So therefore, they will have a different effect for achieving your learning outcomes and learning objectives. So you kind of have to think about that. And again, just putting these things down will help you to identify and analyze, and then you can have a little bit more precise planning in terms of designing the new course format. Okay, thank you.